Can we show you how to break into the luxury market? For most wedding photographers and filmmakers, the business side of running a business doesn't come naturally, but we learned 3 crucial lessons that have led us to doubling and tripling our prices, booking weddings in the luxury market consistently over $10,000 each, allowing us to earn more money while working half the amount that we used to. And now we want to share those lessons with you in our upcoming live 3-day free workshop. We can't wait to share all the tips, the strategies, and the practices that have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue. And here's the best part. It's going to work no matter what stage of business you're in. So you can register now at thelevelupco.com/workshop, and we're going to be cheering to your success in no time.
This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelly Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help wedding filmmakers and photographers level up their businesses so you can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here.
Hey friends, and welcome to another episode of the Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Petrinovich, joined by my co-host, Kelly Gilster.
Hello, everybody. And Taylor, how are you? Now that we're in August, we're like almost over halfway through the year.
Yes, I know. We have gotten over, I would say the hump of summer with all the kids being home. School's just about to start. It's around the corner and it's feeling like a breath of fresh air coming our way. I had a pretty light season or a light summer. I've only had a few weddings, but it's been so nice to just kind of take it easy, really take my time and, pour a little bit more into these clients for 2024. But yeah, how have you been doing?
I mean, we just kind of came off of a really wild stretch. So as you guys have probably seen by now, we welcomed our 3rd baby back in May. And so we're just, kind of getting in the mix of 3-kid life. And one of the things too is that our wedding season was actually booked out before not booked out, but this stretch of weddings from April, May, June was really wild. We had, 2 in April, 1 in May, 3 in June, 1 in July. And that actually made up 70% of our year right then. So we're coming off of that. The backlog's feeling a little bit heavy. We have a little bit lighter fall, and then we'll end with 2 weddings in November right now as it stands. We'll see if anything else comes our way. But it was kind of a crazy year, honestly. But it's good to be on the other side.
I mean, any year where you add a kid to the mix is bound to be a little nuts, let alone having 2 parents working in the wedding industry where, schedules are just a little crazy.
Yes. So fellow husband and wife teams who are in the midst of welcoming kids, or and you're growing your family, just know that I see you and I totally know what you are going through. So it's a tough season, but it's a really fun one as well.
Yeah, so fun. So we're going to kind of shift gears here because Kelly and we're just really passionate about today's topic. So if you are unaware, we actually host this educational program called the Luxury Mastermind. And as it stands now, we have guided over 100 filmmakers, photographers, and actually a couple of, other creative types like hair and makeup artists through really incredible transformations in their businesses. And one of the things that we have noticed that a lot of creatives really need to pour some extra TLC into is their brand. And so we wanted to talk about branding kind of through maybe a different lens, pun intended, than maybe what you have seen elsewhere on the internet. So Kelly, what's maybe one kind of thing that is eye-opening to people once they start learning a little bit more about what goes into a good brand?
Yeah, so I think first of all, when we start our businesses, Not a lot of us realize that we are actually creating a brand. We're not just a photographer, we are not just a filmmaker, or like you said, hair and makeup artist or planner. We are creating a whole brand identity. And that brand identity involves having an ideal client, understanding which market you serve best that you're currently serving, or recognizing the market that you want to grow into. And your brand really needs to reflect that. And I think a lot of people, when they think brand, we think, let's say, Nike and Adidas or Lululemon. And I think all of us can kind of really picture that logo. And a lot of times we just kind of think like, oh, it's a logo. My brand is my logo. But it is so much more than that. Taylor, can you kind of walk people through maybe like the top four things that make up a brand?
Yeah. So maybe to kind of like encapsulate all the things I'm about to say is if you think about your brand as the essence of your business, I think it's easier to kind of understand what these things are going to all tie together to mean. So I would say one thing that is really, really important that most people kind of miss the mark is your brand is actually you showing up in person. So you are a walking, talking, breathing version of your business and you are your brand. So whether your business is your business name, like myself, I'm Taylor Petrinovich, cinematography, or if you're like Kelly, who is 618 Studios, you still are the face of your brand. So that means how you appear and how you interact are pieces of your brand identity.
That's such a good point. That's something that we walk through heavily with our mastermind students when we do our 12-week group coaching program is not only, bringing that to their attention and having them recognize that, but allowing, basically teaching them how they can show up and execute a really strong brand presence in addition to an online brand presence, which is something totally different. And a few months ago, maybe 4 months ago, you might have to like scroll back a bit. We had Abby Zhu on the podcast who talked about building a really strong team. And as you know, it's not always common to see larger teams or teams in general in the luxury space. And Abby has done just such an incredible job. And one of the biggest things that she said is the reason why she finds success is that her and her team all have to just become fully immersed in who the Abby Zhu brand is and ensure that they are remaining on track to always putting that out so that they're gathering consistency time and time again in who that ideal client is. Because I think that's something that's really lost. But that was just like a side topic. But it's just so important, whether you are a husband and wife team or a solo individual who bring on, second shooters for your projects. It's just really important that everybody is arriving on the wedding day or the wedding weekend with a mindset that is in alignment with your brand.
Yeah. Being there to represent the brand is like the number one priority. I would even say that's like on par with creating really great, product for our clients and service for our clients is the brand presence needs to be up there in terms of where we're ranking that in importance. So that's like one piece of the puzzle that lives on this side. If you're watching on YouTube, I have like my hand on one side. And then the rest, because we live in this beautiful time with internet, I feel like the rest of the branding really comes into play in the online presence. And so you asked for four, so we'll give you three on the online side. And just kind of like a rapid fire way to do this would be your website, your social media, meaning primarily Instagram presence, and I would say your body of work. I would say those three things kind of make up your online persona. And notice we didn't mention logo at all, although I do think logo is very, very important, but I don't feel like it's like the essence of a brand. I feel like everything else is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's so good. And I will add a little bonus one since I want to throw in a little bonus and also like your brand voice. So the way that you go through copywriting and that looks in so many ways of emails, your your website copy, even your captions on Instagram, the way that you're, maybe writing on stories, all of those things are a part of your brand voice. And so, as we always say, and if you're a longtime listener, you'll hear that we say that luxury is consistency, and consistency of that brand voice is so important. So, something that we also love to teach within our mastermind group, and we've had some really strong takeaways honestly from students who just kind of tried to like puzzle piece it all together. And it's been really great to be able to identify with them the missing pieces of the puzzle and how we can strengthen those to create, a full and complete puzzle that they can be proud of and completed and really shine among, others in their local market that they may be up against, or in the destination market that they might be up against.
Yeah. So I want to take that word consistency that you used, and I want to talk about that a little bit more, because I think at the end of the day, consistency trumps all, really, especially in terms of branding. So kind of taking those elements that we just talked about with the branding, making sure everything feels cohesive and consistent, I feel like is really important. So for example, if you're goal is to have, I'm just going to use you as an example, Kelly, because I think it's just so easy to kind of like visualize. So Kelly's ideal client is very timeless, very classic, very family or heirloom oriented, right? I think that is going to be true for, a good portion of our audience. That is not my ideal client. So it's easier to talk about you. So that's what Kelly and Paul are going after, right? And you can see that very, very clearly from their color story, the fonts that they've chosen, the copy. Like they're using this language that, communicates that timelessness. But if you took that and then added like imagery that was all about like partying and like huge celebratory shocking moments, like that would feel disconnected and it wouldn't make sense. And I feel like that would be a detriment to Kelly and Paul's brand. So instead they choose the very like family classic, like timeless imagery to pair with their brand. It's not to say that their films don't have moments of fun and excitement and party and, you know what I mean? They're just choosing to showcase the things that are in alignment with their brand. Do you see how you can kind of be really, really intentional with what you're choosing to show online, and it doesn't have to be what you see everyone else sharing or what feels exciting in the moment? I feel like making sure it's on brand to you is more important.
Of course. Yeah. And I actually, during our mastermind, I did a one-on-one with one of our students, and it was so great to be able to walk her through this. And she actually kind of identified this on her own. We were about 1 month into the mastermind group, and we did our one-on-one, and she was like, I feel like the weddings that are my noteworthy weddings, that are portfolio pieces of mine, don't align with like my website and branding and copy and like things like that. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. And that awareness is so crucial. And I'm so happy that you have that awareness, because your films that you're showcasing are actually like, she had some great, like 5 great films that all kind of were in that lovely category. Like maybe even upper lovely, not quite luxury, but like getting there. And but her branding was more of like those muted kind of like grungier, muddier tones. There was like some backgrounds of like the mountains in there. It was really speaking kind of like elopement adventure client, when things that she was showing were like people that had gotten married at resorts and golf courses and things like that. And so when we're talking about that consistency, we want to be able to really be sure that, like how Taylor said, your body of work is also speaking to, your overall brand identity. And there was a disconnect there. So we worked on connecting the dots to find alignment. And so just like how Taylor used me an example too, because we serve more of that classic, timeless, sentimental, heirloom family heirloom client, it only makes sense for us to also showcase films that are filled with sentimental moments and strong family moments and beautiful imagery. And I feel like we've kind of gotten that. I actually just got a recent text from a photographer whose planner was like, who do you recommend? My bride is looking for a pretty videographer. Like, I'm in quotes, like, and I would say that our work showcases pretty. And that was the first thing that came to mind to this photographer, was like, oh, I need to refer 618. And so that's like what you want. You want there to be like, and that's why I also, Taylor, I'm getting like kind of ahead of myself, but it's so important to, would you say, to recognize like keywords of your brand? Like, what are your keywords for your brand?
Bold and refined. Those were kind of the two primary ones. And I feel like celebratory would be a third. So kind of like opposite. Not that I don't have the pretty moments and I don't like that, but you'll notice, sorry, for the photographers listening, their eyes are probably glazing over because they're not like super familiar with the filmmaking world, but like I feel like I gravitate towards like faster cuts and music with a heavy beat and faster tempo. You know what I mean? That's just something that like makes me excited to work. And so I've put that into my branding, and I feel like I attract people who want something slightly more fun. I've been told like by several clients over the last, maybe like 18 months, like when I have a chance to talk to them beforehand, I don't want to cry. Like, I do not want to cry when I'm watching my film. I want it to feel fun. And so like that tells me that like that's what I'm attracting. So I'm doing a good job of like making that kind of my brand identity is maybe slightly more fun. Now, I don't go the full pendulum swing to fun. Like, there are some filmmakers out there who like do it so well and they're so out of the box and it's just like wild. I feel like I'm a very tame version of that. Maybe like a celebratory light, if you will. But I wouldn't say that like you and I would be like direct competitors ever, because I don't think a client who would want me would want you, or vice versa,
Like, I feel like I'd be very intimidated if we had a consultation from a client and they led with like, we don't really want to cry. We want to, and we've had that before. We want it to be one big party. We just want to have our quirkiness show through. We're really funny. We want to showcase that. And that would be a little bit out of the box for us. And that's okay. Like, we all don't need to like serve the exact same client. And I think that's also a huge misconception of the luxury market, is that people go into it thinking, I don't want to serve a luxury clientele because I have to pretend or put on this facade or be, cornered into what, the luxury client wants, and they all want the same thing. That is absolutely not true. This, like, just look at me and Taylor, for example. We serve two totally different luxury clientele. Taylor, more of the bold, celebratory, and fun, and me, more of the sentimental, emotional, like, timeless client. And so we both have thriving businesses in each of those different areas.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just use us as examples, because they are like contrasting, to like kind of showcase maybe a little bit more what we're talking about. So like, for example, something that Kelly and Paul would post on Instagram as a reel, like, is going to look something so different to what I'm posting as a reel. So this is where you really have to put your blinders on and like you need to have an awareness about what's going about you, but to not just emulate what you see out there and try to like copy people or feel the pressure to replicate what others are creating. So if you are more that timeless classic family heirloom, but you see a lot of people posting, I don't know, like the groomsmen taking shots at the bar, like, don't feel like you need to stray from your brand just because you saw something else that somebody did. You know what I mean? So staying true to your brand is so important. And you're going to never feel like you are attracting the wrong clients. If you go about it that way, you're never going to feel that like deer in the headlights, like, oh, that was a really strange request. Why did you choose me? It's going to feel very natural, and it's going to then make you feel excited about your job at the end of the day. Actually, really quickly, shameless plug. I don't think we've talked about this quite yet on the podcast, but it's been out for a few months now. We actually have a new freebie for you guys, and it's actually taken directly from the workbook that we provide to our mastermind and framework students. But it is essentially a brand self audit, where we kind of guide you a little bit through looking at these pieces of your brand that maybe you haven't considered before and ranking them, so you can kind of see where your strengths and your weaknesses are, so that we can kind of bring everything up to snuff, if you will, and identify what you should work on in the future moving forward into 2025 and so on. So you can grab that at thelevelupco.com/brand. Super easy. Just go download it. And we would actually love to see you guys. If you are listening to this and download that guide and you go through the process, snap a photo and post it to your stories and tag us, because we would love to see you guys kind of doing some of this self-reflection, because again, like, a lot of us are just truly artists. We're not necessarily like business strategists. And so some of this may not come super naturally to you. So we would love to kind of guide you through that process of strengthening your brand, so that you can attract more and more of those clients that you really want to work with, and higher paying ones, which I feel like at the end of the day is something that we all want. So
Absolutely. So, so valuable. I hope that you guys all take advantage of that new freebie that we've put together for you guys. Okay, Taylor, so any final notes when it comes to branding and how, we can ensure that we're not deterring clients that we really truly want, and that we're attracting the clients that we really want? And also, I just want to say too, when we are taking that leap, and we've talked about this a lot, and we've heard from lots of wedding planners on this podcast as well too. And one of the biggest things is I see, and I was guilty of this myself when we were making the transition from the mainstream market through the lovely market into the luxury market, is trying to figure out this balance of bringing on this third party, this advocate for the client, which is essentially the wedding planner. And we had a hard time with that. And if you're listening to and you're like, yeah, I don't know if I've ever had a great experience with a wedding planner, or maybe a wedding planner brought a client into my inbox that wasn't really a good solid fit, I would actually challenge you to look inward on your brand and determine if maybe that planner saw you as a good fit for that client because of something that they identified in your brand.
No, yeah, that is so true. I think it's actually really helpful to see how other people, maybe like wedding planners, how they see your brand, because they're seeing it through a third party perspective where they're not in your business. So they're not seeing kind of like what you're going for. They're only seeing what you're actually putting out. So I think some of that third party input, or seeing who's being attracted to you, is just really great kind of information to kind of use and build off of, or realize like, oop, I'm not exactly like portraying what I want to. So let me kind of go this way with things, and make this slight pivot so that I can, make adjustments in real time and who I'm attracting. Because as we've talked about before, like, the wedding industry is so cyclical. So, by the time it's, booking season, it's not, it's a minimum of 6 to 12 months, I feel like, before you're shooting the wedding. And then again, a few months before you're editing and putting that wedding out on social, on your website, wherever it is. So you have to kind of make these adjustments quickly if you want them to take effect, because it's a long cycle before you start seeing the fruits of that labor of those adjustments and those improvements even.
Yeah. And that's why there's no better time than now to get started in implementing those changes for your business. I see too often people just saying, it's not the right time. I have a lot going on. I have a heavy backlog going right now. My kids are too young. I don't have, the childcare that I need, or whatever it may be. And like, we're all really, really busy, like, I had a baby in the middle of our mastermind program in the spring. There's, and had a ton of weddings. And so all of us are really, really busy. And so sometimes I don't love that phrase, I don't have time. And I want you to maybe what if you took I don't have time to replacing it to it's not my priority? And so I think that's kind of what it comes down to. Like what is your priority? I think if you're listening to this podcast, you're someone with big goals. You're someone who wants to see change in their business. You're not like the rest of the mainstream photographers or filmmakers who are ready to settle. You're really ready for more. And so yeah, I just challenge you guys, whether it starts small with little changes on doing this brand audit that we've talked about, or, getting more involved in other ways, through Level Up, or even jumping into our next mastermind that we have coming soon. So I just want you guys to just really reflect on that, look and make sure that your brand is not struggling for yourself. You're not struggling with your brand, but you're really thriving for your brand, and it's a strong brand that's going to attract the clients that you want.
Yeah. Just kind of a closing thought, too. I think that we've talked a lot about maybe attracting clients that we want, right? So your brand through your, in-person persona, that feels repetitive. Your website, your social media, your body of work, like all of these things are meant to attract. But what are maybe a few things really quickly that you can kind of rattle off, maybe rapid fire style, that people are doing that are maybe actually deterring clients that they want to be booking? So maybe people can kind of hop off this podcast and just make those quick adjustments really fast.
Well, I think one of the things is you may be deterring clients by not even having an ideal client. If you don't have an ideal client, then you're kind of just attracting the masses and you're just aimlessly kind of like throwing darts at a wall. And that's like a really dangerous place to be in your business. We've heard for weeks and weeks in our All-Star series, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I hope that you guys did too. I know Taylor did. And what the common thread was within all of those individuals, whether they be planners or photographers or filmmakers, is that they had a level of control that I don't think is really seen in the mainstream market. They can control exactly who they're attracting. They control exactly what they're putting out there. And so I think one of the things in detracting is that we're sharing, if you're kind of oversharing content with no plan in place, that's a really easy way to deter the clients that you want, because you're not going at it with a strategy that is going to serve the clients that you truly want in your inbox. Is there a better way to say that, Taylor? Where you can like clean that up a little bit? I was just kind of rattling off some things.
I don't know. Metaphors really speak to me. So maybe like putting it in this frame of like not having an ideal client is like having a muddy puddle of water where it's not clear who you're trying to attract. And like we want to like sift through those things and remove the sediment, remove the grime, and have it be like really crystal clear who you're targeting. I feel like, maybe volume brands do this a little bit more, but like you are putting everything and anything out there to like see what sticks, but it's so unclear. It's muddy. You have a muddy brand. So that goes so far as to like, aesthetic wise, like maybe you're showing like all the boho, all the classic, all the glam, all the beach, all the whatever mountain, like your portfolio, your body of work, like is really like anything and everything goes. And that like kind of feels muddy. It kind of feels like, well, what's your specialty? Like what are you really good at? What are you exceptional at? And what kind of art do you like put out your best quality? Because I would say like as artists, like we are inspired by certain things, and I don't think it's like a level playing field of inspiration. Like I know for me personally, like certain things inspire me and some things don't. So I think that's probably true for most. So kind of removing the things that you don't really want to be putting out will help make that a little bit more clear. And the same with like even like so simple as maybe your headshots. Like your headshots are part of your brand. That's part of your website. And if you're going after this like really classic client, like really polished, but your headshot is edited in a way that does not align with your, the way you color your own images or films. And it's not in a setting that makes sense for your brand. Like, let's say you're going for that classic, but it's you on a mountain or you in a forest. Like, that doesn't translate. That's muddy. That's a little unclear as to what you're trying to go after. So I just feel like taking a look at every little thing in your brand and asking yourself, like, is it clear or is it muddy? Like, kind of is, it's either yes or no.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me.
And another thing too, even Taylor was saying, like, going in and refining like what you're sharing, and maybe it's time for you to do a little Instagram audit. And we love to do this in our own businesses, every quarter, just to kind of look and see. And sometimes there's things that I hold on to on my Instagram feed a little bit longer than I should. And then I'll revisit it next quarter and I'm like, all right, I'm ready to let that go. We're Marie Kondoing. And if it doesn't spark joy, then we're going to let it go and let it, what does she do? I feel like she even like hugs the item for like thanking it for what it did for you. And you know what? There was probably a time where that post or reel or carousel of images served your business in a really good way. But, if we're on this uphill climb into the luxury market, what once served you in your business and the practices that you used in your business 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago are not going to be the same ones that are going to get you to that next level. And so we have an Instagram challenge for you guys. And what's the URL on that? If I can't think of it on the top of my head, we'll definitely put it in the show notes.
I have it. It's thelevelupco.com/Instagram challenge. Super simple. Yeah, that's a good one. We actually love that one. Kelly and I do that, like she said, like kind of quarterly. We think about those things all the time. We would really encourage you to definitely hop on the brand audit. So thelevelupco.com/brand. And then that Instagram challenge Kelly just mentioned. It'll be in the description box below if you're watching on YouTube, or in the show notes if you are joining us, audio only on your listening platform of choice. But just really quickly. So Kelly said something really, really smart that we like to teach our students is things that have served you in the past, they served you. But like looking forward, I think also asking yourself, like, is this piece of my brand going to serve me for the next 2 years? Like looking at your goals for the next 24 months ahead, like, and seeing like, does my website serve me? Will it continue serving me for 2 years? Does this do my headshots? Does my logo do, even my business name. Some people like to change their business name through this like giant rebrand process, and like framing it as, is it going to serve me for the next 2 years? Knowing what those goals are, I feel like is really helpful too, because I think people kind of think of like, it's serving me now, but I don't think that it's serving me now is enough. I think it needs to serve you for a few years ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you mentioned that because, not enough foresight, I think, is utilized for us creatives. We're just kind of like in our craft, in our art, and not always looking at it through a business lens of looking forward to those next 24 months, which is so important. Well, cool. I feel like I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Taylor and I love talking about all things branding. We always tell, students, photographers, filmmakers that, what we're here to teach in our course, luxury framework, and our mastermind, the luxury mastermind. It's not a photography, teaching where, we have some elements of that. It's not heavy on editing and color grading and filmmaking. This is really truly a business course. And so we love talking about all things business, and branding is just one little piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's a fun piece of the puzzle though. I don't know about you, but like branding just kind of like tickles that part of my brain that like makes me excited, and it's so fun. And that's why I love our coaching job, because I love getting my hands into other people's brands and kind of helping them along the way too, because you can only mess with your own brand like so many times before it's like, okay, you just need to stop.
Yeah, you need some outside eyes. But anyways, I hope you guys are, wherever you're at in the country, you're either in the thick of wedding season. If you're in Florida or the South, you're probably settling down just a little bit before ramping things back up. And wherever you are in your journey throughout the year, we thank you for continually listening to us over here weekly. And we just love to serve you guys. We love our community, and we look forward to talking to you guys next week.
Thank you for joining us in today's conversation. Please help us reach more filmmakers and photographers like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it to social media. And don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.